Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa, an expert in nothing, which makes me suitable for reporting news. Today is January 22nd, Thursday, and this is episode 14, pre-recorded on Sunday evening because I cannot do a show until Saturday. All right. A lot of things in the news that is going to be relevant as of Sunday all the way through the week. A lot of talk on Greenland. Is it gaslighting by President Trump? Or is the military behind the push on Trump to secure bases in Greenland? We have bases in Greenland. We've had them since before World War II. But these military bases that I think the military would love is for the Iron Dome defense, laser technology, which will end anti-ballistic missiles for the most part. You still have anti-ballistic missiles. But if you looked at Greenland, and I spoke of this in another podcast, think of the Earth round. We're over here. Missiles are launched over there. They're coming over to us. So we have to wait, theoretically, till they hit a certain apogee before we could use laser-based weapons. And this is my own thinking. This isn't, anything that I know that is secret. But the closer you get to the launch point, you can get it on the upswing instead of waiting for it to being accelerated and now becoming harder to hit. So having a base like that in Greenland, having our bases in the Pacific and in Alaska, also on our southern borders, would kind of give us a nice ring of protection. And it would be quicker in the response if we missed anything coming over from the European side coming over to us. We would have a second or third chance of getting that target. So remember, we're talking about weapons now where before a launch would take 32 minutes from the United States or from Russia to hit its target in the United States, or vice versa, same with China. Now, we cut that down because we have other nuclear capabilities closer, where you only have really maybe 60, 80 seconds in some cases to react. And that's it. Once that's over, the target's going to be hit. So when seconds count, the closer you are to eliminating that target coming in, or the projectile coming in, the better chance you have of survivability. So, would Trump use force to take Greenland? No. I mean, that's just rhetoric, and he likes saying that. And it riles people up. But I've said before, when I think someone goes off the page, I'm going to say something. And I think President Trump is really off the page here in saying why what is his rationale. And of course, Russia knows why, and China knows why, and even our allies know why. Greenland is sparsely populated, so we could put a lot of weapons in there and not have to worry about people spying on us and trying to get in the base, or people, say, I'm going to take a weekend trip. I'm in the military, and he takes a flash disk with him from West Germany into Russia or into the Chinese embassy. A lot of that gets halted because you're on a rock where, you can't go anywhere. So, but I said before that I would speak out. I think the president's wrong. Not in wanting to have Greenland, as protectory, which it really already is and always has been. But the rhetoric is causing problems inside the Republican Party. Senator Tillis and Senator Murkowski, not happy. And these are people that you should not be, toe-to-toe with. You need senators. And you need friends. And I think that besides upsetting NATO, and I don't think NATO really is going to worry that, we'll attack them. Number one, we have no assets in the area anymore because they're all, in the Caribbean, and they're all in the Pacific, and they're near the Middle East, and we just don't have the resources to do that. That's why we need at least 2 carrier strike forces. Now, when you have a carrier strike force, it's just not an aircraft carrier. You have to have all the supporting ships with it, Arleigh Burkes. You need supply vessels. You need other ships. So it's, just not a $12 billion aircraft carrier. So it's expensive, it's hard, and plus you have to have the personnel. So it's an expensive deal, but we need another 1 or 2 aircraft carrier strike forces. But if this were to continue, if this rhetoric and using the tariff, which the president can use tariffs as a means in an emergency. But if he creates the emergency, I think Congress is going to step in and go, you're weaponizing the tariffs. And you can, in certain instances, you can't create the instance. And I think it's a kind of foolish move on his part in a midterm election. Trump, I read, I think it was on MSN or one of these, leftist media things that, Trump's numbers are in the, tanking and, this is why. Trump's number is not tanking. The people that voted for Trump, who wants Trump going after immigration, wants Trump going after criminals, wants some accountability in our spending, yeah, they're right with him. And they're not budging because Trump made some European allies cry. Yeah, we're not going to abandon the causes that we put Trump back in office. And he knows that. And I've said this before about President Trump. He performs the best in chaos. He'll create chaos because that's what he works in. So I think the Democrats really need to take a look back, step back, and think for a minute, is this where we want to go? Is this where we want to push Trump? The Democrats are in a horrible position. They have the health care, again, coming up. We're going to be in another one of these things where the government's going to have to shut down for a while. It's going to come. And you don't hear any one of them talking about that. Some are still squawking about Epstein and trying to, revive that. Epstein's dead. And unless there's new stuff that comes out to actually point to people that the Department of Justice under Biden didn't act on, and the Department of Justice under President Trump is not going to act on, then there's nothing. There is nothing. Because if there were Republicans in there that they could act upon, it would have happened. If there's Democrats in there that they could act upon, what would happen? But here's the problem with Epstein, is that you got Republicans in there and you got Democrats in there. Who are you going to sacrifice? So it's a shouting match about nothing that affects America's pocketbook, or what you're going to be paying for eggs, or what you're going to be paying for gasoline. It's nothing. It's tabloid news. It's something for the left to scream about. They got something to hide. Show it. If there was something there, Biden would have released it. Somehow it would have gotten leaked out. Unless it's so salacious, unless it's so damning to our government as a whole, that both sides go, let them think, because they could think whatever they want. The problem is when they know. So I don't see it going anywhere. But I see this using President Trump using the tariffs as a whipping when it doesn't need to be a whipping type of situation. That could spell a problem, because Congress can get involved. I mean, this can hurt long-term our economy, and there are people screaming that, and they're not wrong. We haven't really seen it, but it doesn't mean it could not happen. So it's something, where, it's very nice that he's willing to take that risk. You should think twice about it during a midterm. Personally, with the midterms, I think it's going to be a wash. I think the Republicans are going to stay in power. And, they'll pick up a couple more seats here and there. Some seats will flip. We'll get more over here. They'll get less over there. But they'll stay in the majority. But, you really like to have a good tipping point. The Senate is fine. There's no problem with the Senate. They're not going to take in the Senate back. That's not happening. We'll see what happens in 2028, but I doubt it. But basically, that's the news that's going on with Greenland, with Epstein. There's, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. Trump again the other day said that, Republicans that didn't support him, or, blah, 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 I'm going after you. And one of the people that he did go after as of Sunday, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, Trump has said that Julia LaBelle, Louisiana representative, would be perfect to run against a sitting Republican, a Republican for a Republican. Louisiana's going to be a Republican anyway; it won't matter. But you're now showing kind of, at least they're a little house divided. But that's going to become more of an issue too for Democrats who are caught in the fraud veil, that are going to have to explain what happened in their states and when did they know and what did they know and should they have known. You know, that's going to be a bad time. There'll be other Democrats or progressives that line up against them. But again, you know, that just makes for the Republicans to go, hey, listen, that guy didn't do anything for you. Cost us, you know, $10 billion. And the other guy is even worse. Is that what you want? Then vote for them. But if you're looking for accountability, I'm your guy or gal. I won't go with, you know, nouns and pronouns and things like that. Either a man or a woman. Simple as that. All right. Some talk of in the news I saw over the last couple of days, and I didn't want to go there, but I'm going to go there anyway. Of course, this is Minnesota. And there was talk that, you know, Tim Walz signed a bill that, you know, and pushed legislation where if you used a car against a police officer in the state of, you know, Minnesota, that if you accelerate towards a police officer, you can assume that that person is trying to hurt you, and you could use up to deadly force to stop them. Yeah, Tim Walz never signed anything like that. The law we're talking about is a statute 609.066. I had to look it up. I have it written down here, but it was, and that was done in 1978. All right. So that law has been on the books. The police reform that Tim Walz did sign, what it did is started to define what was, you know, made the language a little tighter, but it still is there that, you know, you use a weapon you use a vehicle as a weapon going towards a police officer, forward or backwards, sideways, doesn't matter. Deadly force can be used against you. Now, that statute only applies for law enforcement in Minnesota, state police and local police. It does not apply towards federal police, who have their own set of rules. The agent involved in the shooting, there is an investigation going on, but I think it's going to be what is called a good kill. And, you know, you only have seconds to respond, and the person allegedly, the person that was shot by the police, by the ICE agent, I'm sorry, not the police, ICE agents, there's a difference, allegedly had gone to seminars to talk about how to use a car to really interfere with ICE. And play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Sad, but that's what happened. I think that the rhetoric going on there, Walz, again, activating the National Guard, but not deploying them. That's going to DEFCON 2. It's going all the way from DEFCON 5 to DEFCON 2. DEFCON 1, you're committed. Walz is really in a bind. He ratcheted these people up. He's been doing this for years. And now he has to try to figure out, he wants to tone it down. You can't. You threw gasoline on a fire and you're shocked by the aftermath? Walz is going to be the poster child of what's wrong with the Democratic Party, what's wrong with a lot of these blue states, what's wrong with our immigration, what's wrong with our government officials interfering in police matters. Tim Walz is being investigated along with Mayor of Minneapolis Fry for exactly that. Sanctioned release of information that could be used to interfere with ICE agents and the performance of their duties. The question will be, did Walz know this? It is obvious the mayor knew it because employees were feeding sensitive information, and it's not public, it's public. There's stuff that if you release that is going to cause a problem. And releasing where ICE agents are or plan on being, because the ICE agents followed the protocol of giving notice to the city of what it was doing and what its plans were. And they gave that to people and groups that are opposed to ICE and have had contact incidents with ICE agents. And for them to give that is a wanting disrespect. And I feel criminal. They were an accomplice to hindering ICE federal agents from doing their job. So I think Walz is in trouble. I think Fry is in trouble. I think Attorney General Ellison is in trouble. I think they're going to be charged. I think a federal grand jury will kind of act. I think a state grand jury of people not in that you're going to take people from all, but you got to be careful. See, that's where grand juries become very tricky. Because I don't think you can take people from X county and move them to Y county just to act, unless it's a state investigation. And again, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not versed. I'm not a lawyer. I could never be a lawyer. I have a soul. But basically, I don't know what the rules are for Minnesota. So, but I will say this: Tim Walz and Frey, I think, Frey, and Ellison are in trouble, in actual legal trouble. And they'll scream, this is political, this is what. Yeah. You'll have your day in court. Just like Trump had his day in court, right? Remember how that worked? No one's above the law. Yeah. Yeah. And in Walz's case, you can't tell me the DNC didn't know what was going on, since it was Merrick Garland who initiated a lot of these investigations looking into fraud. It wasn't the Trump administration. It was Biden's DOJ. And you don't think someone in the White House or someone in the Department of Justice would let the DNC know, hey, this guy, he might be clean, but boy, his state is dirty. And, we know which way waste products flow. So I think Trump is going to beat the hell out of Minnesota. He's going to beat the hell out of Illinois. And other states are going to look at it and go, I don't want to be beat. I don't want to be railroaded, and I don't want the federal government overstepping its boundaries under the 10th Amendment. I get that. But I think Trump and the Department of Justice are going to really play hardball here. And it's going to get mean and nasty. And I think Walz and company, governor of Illinois, there's a lot of people, excuse me, there's a lot of people that are going to be looking for cover. And there's a lot of states that are really, honestly, are in battle with the federal government. There is a kind of secret little civil war going on. And what's going to happen when these states say, we don't care what the Supreme Court says? We're not going to do it. Yeah. That's going to be interesting. And you're going to have lawyers who are politicians who are going to come out and say, hey, listen, you might not like it. It stinks like hell. We're not. But either you obey it or, you're going to be arrested. And if you're a lawyer and you disobey it, you're going to be debarred. You're going to be disbarred. You're going to be thrown out of the legal profession. You're going to be tossed out of office. If you're lucky, tossed out of office. And you'll have federal charges and state charges and everything else, because Article 5, Clause number 2, all about supremacy of the federal government. State law, state judges and state courts must abide by federal law. You could appeal it, you could do whatever, but once it hits the Supreme Court, that's it. There's no higher court in the land. There's no appeal process. That's it. And they're not going to be happy. And the fight will be on, and people will go, we're going to take on the federal government. You can't take on. This is about fraud. This is about immigration, lying. And you're not going to be able to make an illegal act legal. Sorry. Not going to happen. And I think the Democrats are really in for a rough time in 2026. It's almost February. The fight starts, honestly, in March and April. And then it just picks speed up all the way to November. And gloves are coming off. Wait for the State of the Union address. Wait. Oh, you ain't heard nothing yet. And that is going to be a fun, for some people, drinking contest on when Trump uses these words or Trump says this or how many times he says it. You're going to be taking a drink. I've never played those games. But I know a lot of people that do. So it will be interesting. All right, everyone. I'm going to wrap this up. This is going out on Thursday, January 22nd. Like I said, it's episode 14 of the new year. I apologize. I'm doing this show, again, as of Sunday, the 18th, because of personal situations. I will not be available until Saturday. And even Saturday will probably be a late evening Saturday. It depends on how I feel. So, again, I apologize. I try to keep this as current as possible, but this stuff is going to stay current. What I'm talking about is going to stay current. I'm not putting up much, as you saw, because this is recorded. There's not going to be much editing involved, just my normal stuff and basically what I'm going to talk about. And that's it. So everyone be safe, be well. Remember, please give to a charity if you can. Charity does begin at home. And I can understand people being a little reluctant to go to a charity and give. If that's the case, please find a local food bank. They need food. They need monetary support. When I say monetary, it's because they have immediate needs. They know what they need. Food is always, great to give. But monetary needs, ask them if they need clothes. Ask them if, you got a suit jacket you're not wearing anymore. Pants that you're not wearing. Dresses. Kids' clothing that, you don't have these kids anymore. Your sister's not having a kid. Your brother's not having a kid. Give it away. Help. And with food banks and shelters and things like that, that is local. That helps local. This isn't going to end up in some African town somewhere. Not that that's not a good thing, but it's going to be local. So do that. Say a prayer. Prayer does work, no matter what a Democrat might tell you. And with that, everyone be safe. I'm not going to do a Friday show. There's going to be no Friday show. I just won't be able to do it. So there's no chance, even if, there's something huge going on, there's a 99.99% chance that I will not be, doing this. So everyone be safe, be well, and I'll catch you back with the current news on Saturday. All right, everyone. Take care as I fade to black.